Well, hello, Michael here. Today, looking again at Psalms 36, specifically verse 1 and 2 for the exposition. The psalm, which is subtitled, How Precious is Your Steadfast Love. Let's go ahead and read those two verses then. Verse 1 The transgression of the wicked saith within my heart, that there is no fear of God before his eyes. Verse 2 For he flattereth himself in his own eyes, until his iniquity be found to be hateful. And so we look to the Treasury of David for the exposition. It's written by Charles Spurgeon. Verse 1 The transgression of the wicked, his daring and wanton sin, his breaking the bounds of law and justice, saith within my heart that there is no fear of God before his eyes. Men's sins have a voice to godly ears. They are the outer index of an inner evil. It is clear that men who dare to sin constantly and presumptuously cannot respect the great Judge of all. Despite the professions of unrighteous men, when we see their unhallowed actions, our heart is driven to the conclusion that they have no religion whatever. Unholiness is clear evidence of ungodliness. Wickedness is the fruit of an atheistic root. This may be made clear to the candid head by cogent reasoning, but it is clear already and intuitively to the pious heart. If God be everywhere, and I fear him, how can I dare to break his laws in his very presence? He must be a desperate traitor who will rebel in the monarch's own halls. Whatever theoretical opinion bad men may avow, they can only be classed with atheists, since they are such practicality. Those eyes which have no fear of God before them now shall have the terrors of hell before them forever. Verse 2 For here is the argument to prove the proposition laid down in the former verse. David here runs over the process of reasoning by which he had become convinced that wicked men have no proper idea of God or respect for him. God-fearing men see their sins and bewail them. Where the reverse is the case, we may be sure there is no fear of God. He flattereth himself in his own eyes. He counts himself a fine fellow, worthy of great respect. He quiets his conscience, and so deceives his own judgment as to reckon himself a pattern of excellence. If not for morality, yet for having sense enough not to be enslaved by rules which are bonds to others. He is the free thinker, the man of strong mind, the hater of Kant, the philosopher, and the servant of God, are in his esteem mean-spirited and narrow-minded. Of all flatterers, this is the most absurd and dangerous. Even the silliest bird will not set traps for himself. The most pettifogging attorney will not cheat himself. To smooth over one's own conduct to one's conscience, which is the meaning of the Hebrew, is to smooth one's own path to hell. The descent to eternal ruin is easy enough, without making a glissade of it, as self-flatterers do, until his iniquity be found to be hateful. At length he is found out and detested, despite his self-conceit. Rottenness smells sooner or later too strong to be concealed. There is a time when the leprosy cannot be hidden. At last, the old house can no longer be propped up, and falls about the tenant's ears. So there is a limit to a man's self-gratulations. He is found out amid general scorn, and can no longer keep up the farce which he played so well. If this happens not in this life, the hand of death will let light in upon the coveted character, and expose the sinner to shame and contempt. The self-flattering process plainly proves the atheism of sinners, since the bare reflection that God sees them would render such self-flatterers extremely difficult, if not impossible. Belief in God, like light, reveals, and then our sin and evil are perceived. But wicked men are in the dark, for they cannot see what is so clearly within them and around them that it stares them in the face. Trust you enjoyed the exposition. Certainly worth listening again to. Michael here declaring yet again, Jesus is Lord. Until next time, be blessed.